Route. Let's go now to Dillon Jones. Small school prospect, Weber State, a guy whose numbers are going to jump off the page with anybody who looks at them now. I did a bit of work on him last year. I think I talked with Rich about Dillon Jones yesterday when I talked to him, because this is a guy that I thought was going to stay in the draft last season. He is basically everything for this Weber State team. He's 22 now. He's a 6'6 wing, but like 11 rebounds, 6 assists, over 2 steals, 24 points per 40 minutes. Like, they're insane numbers. He had a 30 usage rate. He had 1.7 assist to turnover. He hit his free throws. He did everything. But is this just a case of you are the guy on a small team, you are doing everything for this team, you're a bit undersized, not sure always the shot's going to be there to the degree it needs to be there, and then he gets somewhat lost in the NBA? Or the name that I threw out to Rich when we just briefly discussed Dillon the other day was, with this ability to be this undersized, sort of hard-nosed player, we've seen the success that Josh Hart is having at the moment. Is there a way that Jones can sort of pull that usage back and just be this defender, ball mover, aggressive rebounder, and a elite level role player type of guy?
I don't see it for Dillon Jones, and I know I'm going to get some flack because I am from Utah. I've seen Dillon Jones play a lot, and in college games, he's been dominant in some big games. Like, they played St. Mary's, some of the better teams that Weber State played against. He had good games, but I watch him against other NBA hopefuls at the Combine the last 2 years, and he, to me, stands out as someone who doesn't have a role, and other players may be trying too hard to fit different levels of, hey, this is what the scouts want for me, I'm going to play like this, and they don't do very well at it. He's playing his role, and he's doing the best he can at it, but I just don't see it working out at the NBA level, because he, to me, is a not very good athlete compared to NBA players. I don't think he's a very good shooter compared to NBA players, and he's just dominated against inferior competition, and so he's trying to play as a role player when he's been a star. And sometimes that works really well. There's been numerous occasions where a star can transition down and become a valuable role player. There's been numerous occasions where someone can be a role player and it's the same role. And there's some where a guy even turns from a role player to star. But I just don't see his working out, because he doesn't shoot it convincingly enough for me to believe in him as a shooter. I don't think he's the athlete that you liken him to in Josh Hart. I'm not saying that's like your perfect comp or anything. I'm just saying for the listeners, Josh Hart flies like a rocket and goes after rebounds. I don't think Dillon Jones does that against that level of athletes. What he does is he positions himself well, he uses a strong body, but I don't think his strength is something that's going to be that valuable against NBA level athletes. And then he likes the ball in his hands to facilitate, but I don't see him being able to facilitate because he won't create advantages athletically off the dribble or with strength burrowing into the defense like he does at Weber State against the Big Sky competition. So I had this discussion with Richard at the Combine this year. I had the same discussion with him last year. I want to root for Dillon Jones, but my eyes don't see it. I hope I'm wrong, but I'm pretty low on him.
Because you look at the numbers and you go, well, they're huge, but it's the context is important. I don't know if you've seen this site. I only just sort of came across it today. It's just NBA draftcomp.herokuapp.com, right? And it compares guys just a bunch per 40 numbers, advanced numbers, physical numbers to show their closest similarities. And I put Dillon Jones into there. Not every prospect is in there, but I put Dillon Jones in there. And the name that came up should be harrowing to people, I guess, especially Bulls fans. Chandler Hutchison was the top name that came up as an advanced comp, and second was Norris Cole. So I wouldn't say those guys were particularly successful, and Chandler Hutchison's a really interesting one because he put up all those numbers: strong rebounding, good passing, good scoring at Boise State, and then just absolutely had no chance of hanging in the NBA once he got there. So is that like how for stuff that's like a algorithmic statistical comparison? Like, does that sound far off to you?
I mean, that makes sense to me in the sense that he's a good player at a lot of things, but a master of none. And at the NBA level, if you're going to be good at a lot of things, you got to be some sort of spectacular athlete. And I don't see him of that. Or you have to be a master of something like shooting. And he's not a master of shooting, and he's not a master of passing, in my opinion. So I think he might be one of those guys who's kind of in between levels. I think he could be good in the G League. I just don't see it at the NBA level athletically, nor from a skill set wise of shooting or passing, which are the ways that you can make it if you're not that level athlete. You have to have some tremendous guile and like a way to stick. And I just don't see that pathway. And like I said, I hope I'm wrong, but for 2 straight years, I felt like he's been a fish out of water at the combine.
But today's episode is brought to you by BetterHelp. With BetterHelp, it's therapy, but we all know that there are certain different things that therapy can be useful for. We have different stresses in our life, big or small. It might be something that happens with our sport team. It might be our team's GM taking Davion Mitchell in the top 10 of a draft when he was already 35 years of age and couldn't shoot. Who knows? Things can get to us at any point. And finding an unbiased way to get things off our chest, well, that's part of what therapy can do. It's a safe space to get those things out and figure out a way to work through whatever it is that is weighing you down. So if you've been thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online. It's designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. You fill out a questionnaire. They match you with a therapist. If that doesn't work out and you don't like your therapist, which honestly happens all the time, you just request a new one and they change it over for you free of charge. Get it off your chest with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/LockedOnNBA today to get 10% off your first month. That is BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNBA.